Reactive Training Systems.
Looks like we made it. We all made it back from Texas. I made it to Texas at the last minute, and here we are. Everybody's home. Adam's in the midst of his home of the moment, I guess. But
sea of boxes no more.
right. Um, yeah. So IPF Worlds. We wrapped that up in Killeen on Sunday, and yeah. So just kind of wanted to get together with you guys and talk about what your thoughts. Paulie, you and Mark really handled stuff in the beginning of the week, with the Masters team and stuff like that. You want to share how it went?
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, it went awesome. It was the basic stats were that we had 7 team golds and 1 team silver. There's plenty of stats out there where we posted up a ridiculous amount of world records. There was a lot of personal records, a lot of individual medals, and I think for what it was, for what we did, it went incredibly smoothly, incredibly smooth. We started off with 18 lifters in the first session, and I know for you, Mark, being back there in the platform, helping out, warming everybody up, that was a little bit of a baptism by fire. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd been used to, handling 1 or 2 lifters at a time, not 18, and thank God for the help. I mean, I had no idea what I was getting into there, and but we got it all taken care of, and good thing was with back on one platform and you on the other, as soon as had them warmed up, we knew they were in top-notch hands there. So, which pretty much everybody, was very happy with what you all did.
Yeah, and I will say that I did know what you were getting into, Mark. I just didn't tell you because I wanted you to show up.
Yeah.
Good move. And it's incredibly important to have a system, and I think that's what we ended up doing. We had you and Chris and Arian showed up for the first session to help warm everybody up, and then as soon as they were warmed up, you fed them to myself, Rebecca, gave us any notes on the lifters, and we sent them out to do their best. So, I mean, that's honestly a big part of why everything worked really well, and everybody lifted great too.
Yeah, I may or may not have gotten a frantic text or two from somebody who was helping out in the warm-up room.
Who could that be, Mark?
Right.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forget what text it was. You just hit me at a spot where I could actually even get look at a text, because it was crazy. It was just crazy. It was like as soon as you got done warming up one group, it was time to start with the next group, and it just no breaks.
Yeah, brilliant.
And just to give a sense of the flavor back there too, there were 6 platforms in the warm-up area, and I think overall we had about 50 nations attending, and with 50 nations attending, there were language barriers, there were just kind of cultural barriers, but for whatever reason, we got it all to work. But it was essentially it was literally controlled chaos in the warm-up area. So, but
absolutely.
So thanks,
How many
Mark.
lifters total were on your teams, Paul?
Total 51.
51. Wow.
51.
So 51 lifters just on your teams in the 3 days? It was 3 days, right?
2 and a third.
2 and a third.
Yeah,
So,
and I think it's worth mentioning we went through 31 lifters on the first day.
Yep.
Wow. Starting off strong, huh?
I know.
Really, really notable performances too by Tony Harris and Dave Ricks, who both set multiple world records. Dave Ricks having an open world record in the squat, which is just incredible for a Masters 2 lifter.
Yeah. And so I was sitting here in my office watching those two on the live stream, and it was, more or less at that point that I decided can't miss it, you know. So I made a big deal in the pre-Worlds podcast about how I'm the only person, only powerlifter that's not going to be there, and I figured I can't let that be true. So after watching those two guys, I was like, you know what, we've got to do it. So loaded up the family in the truck, you know, had my son and everything, and we drove through the night so we could cover as much ground while he was asleep. And we got down there on Thursday, you know, and really Friday was the first day that we were there watching the lifting. But yeah, I mean, outstanding performances by those two guys, and more as well. But yeah, you're right, Adam. Those two really did have standout performances.
It was crazy. I mean, I was one thing that I took away. Of course, I was only there for the Masters meet and left on Wednesday, but I was just incredibly impressed with the level of lifting just across the board. Not only our own folks, especially our own folks, but other folks too, like Leon Brown from Canada, who won my class. Uh, you know, set an open world record bench of 491 pounds, which 391 pounds would have been a really good bench for my class, but 491 was like off the charts.
Yeah,
So,
it
and
was,
then
it was all pretty amazing.
Yeah.
some of the M2 and M3 women, who
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah,
And our Masters lifter, the RTS Masters, resident RTS Masters lifter for this year was Ron Brinker, and he did well. He did better, I think, than he thought he was going to do. You know, um, yeah. Paulie, do you want to
yeah, he did. I mean,
share on that?
it's his first Worlds. And I will stay here. I will completely stay on message and say that this is a multi-year plan. And so, you know, I say keep an eye on Ron. He'll be back, and he'll be even better. But I'm very happy with his performance. You know, a funny thing is, and Mike, you and I were talking about this, and we talk about perspective. You know, perspective from a coach's point of view and perspective from a lifter's point of view. I really believe that I'm happier with Ron's performance than Ron is. And I think over time he'll settle in and he'll be happy with it, and especially knowing that he's just going to keep moving forward. And I think that can be said for a lot of our lifters across the board. And I think it's a lifter versus coach thing. I think it's obviously as a coach it's a separation of ego where we don't have the lifter's ego. But you know, I know you have personal experience with that as well, Mike. But yeah, so for Ron, he did great. And Ron, if you're listening to this, just keep working hard. Just keep going. And I'll tell you that over and over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing too, like talking about Ron, Ron was an absolute pleasure to work with. All of our lifters were, for the most part. I mean, just great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, sometimes, you know, the dynamic on a national team can be different sometimes. So, and that can cause friction when things are different from what you're used to. So, yeah, it's always good when things run smoothly. And it's in my opinion, it's a testament to the preparation that goes into setting up the national team. You know, setting up expectations, making sure that everybody's on the same page with their plans and stuff like that. So that's awesome. We also had two junior lifters. We had Hannah Chan and Jason. It's Jason Luo, right?
Yeah, Jason Liu. I mean, he'll tell me. It's Jason. I always call him Jason Lowe, but
I always said Luo. So if I'm wrong on that, you know, he should have said something when we were chatting at the meet if I'm mispronouncing his name. But you know, hey.
and honestly, it really honestly depends on what part of the country you're coming from, because the same name can be pronounced differently. But Jason, we'll call him Jason.
Jason,
Canadian
since we
Jason.
know him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, he did well. Both of them, Hannah and Jason, both did well. Um, Hannah placed a lot better than she thought she was going to place, than we thought she was going to place going into it. So I know that she lifted really well, she peaked well, and you know, Jim, I think you were watching that. That was before I got there as well. I think I was on the road when she was lifting. So
Yeah, well, I was, gotta be honest, I was pretty nervous she was even gonna compete because she messaged me 4 days before the meet and was like, "Hey, I just weighed in at 62 kilos." I was like, "How are we gonna get you to 57 in 4 days?" But she was like, "Nope, I got this. Like, don't worry. Like, I'll be 57 one way or another." And sure enough, I think there was something else going on because the next day she was 58.6, and I was way less stressed out, but I don't know how that happened.
well, a lot of times the travel can do that. And I know different people react to airline flights in different ways. Some people really seem to hold on to water, and then other people it's the opposite. So I wonder if in her case it had something to do with travel.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. She came obviously from the UK, so it was like an 8, 9 hour flight. I don't know exactly how she managed it on the plane when she ate, how much she was able to drink, but we were doing a water load to get her to, well, lose a bunch of water weight leading up to the meet. But yeah, she weighed in actually a little light, which was surprising. She weighed in at 56.5, I think. So she's a pound under. But the most surprising thing was that usually when we do these weight cuts, her squat and bench are affected, but her deadlifts are usually pretty consistently way better. But in this case, her squat and bench were perfect. I mean, they were exactly what we were aiming for. And her attempt selection by the Great Britain coach that was handling her was spot on. Is incredible. I mean, her bench was perfect. It was almost red lighted. She almost had downward motion, but she grinded that better than anyone I've ever seen. And like we were talking about, what I was talking about in the video I made was like that was something we've really been working on. And I was right there watching, and I was I was so happy to see her grind it out because she went into the deadlift going 6 for 6. Uh, she missed a 150 pull, but that's what she wanted. It wouldn't have really made a difference if she didn't get it. She went 147 and a half. It wouldn't have done anything. So she just went for it. She got it, I think, to her shins, and she just couldn't keep going. I mean, there's a lot more than just programming there. I mean, she's pretty tired. She was up at 12 in the morning, uh, losing weight in the sauna. So, there's a lot going on. But I overall extremely proud of her, and I've let her know we're able to hang out for the rest of the meet. It's a good
Yeah,
time.
yeah, and like you and I chatted about, it's a better finish than she was hoping for in the beginning, and considering all those things going on to still um, lift well and perform well. I mean, anybody who's actually had to travel for a meet like this knows that there's just some intangibles that are very clearly different. Um, Sometimes you can do stuff about it, sometimes you can't. Um, but you've got to be ready to adjust the plan. But it sounded like she did very well. She um, performed well and ended up placing better than what she was hoping for. So
Yeah,
that's good.
I mean,
And she's another junior lifter. There's more to follow there too. I mean, somebody who's as talented and hardworking as she is. I mean, we'll see more of her.
yeah. Well, and the coolest thing was she was able to PR every single lift, and her Wilks score from the time we started together till this meet. Um, she had a 391 Wilks at this meet, and her starting Wilks was 327. So increased her
Nice.
Wilks what 60 points about. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, I'll say that's nice. That's a very solid improvement, and again, to perform at that level on the biggest stage, I mean, that's what it's about.
hmm
And then Jason did very well. Also, he ended up with a silver medal overall, and I know from talking to him, he's a little bummed about that. Wanted a gold medal, and I mean, I can totally relate to that. But one thing that I mentioned to him was that um, you've got to cherish any time that you get on the platform, on the podium. That there's no guarantee that you can be back next year. I mean, we all hope so. We all hope that you get another chance at it, but it's funny the difference in perspective. And Paulie, I think this is what you were talking about, the difference between like coach and athlete perspective.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, like I've been in that position before where like I wanted to be on the gold medal podium, yet here I am on the silver medal podium, and there's disappointment there. And I think to an extent that that's okay, but it's important to keep in perspective. Like that's second place in the world, and most of the time these are very close competitions. It's not like somebody just completely blew you away. And even if they did, like that's one person. Um, Nobody sitting there in the audience watching goes, man, that second place dude really sucked. you know, like it's all super impressive, and it's just a difference. It's a difference in perspective that I've had over the last couple years. That perspective has been gradually changing for me. Um, I don't know if I'm competing at that level again in the future. I think that I'll look at it differently.
Yeah, I mean, talking about how close things are. There were 6 people in Jason's class, and the spread between first and second were 2.5 kilos. You can't get closer than that,
Right.
and he has to be proud of himself for
Absolutely.
doing that. And just a little point of trivia, he bombed out the year before,
Yeah.
so that's a big progress there.
And I don't want to sound like I'm picking on Jason too bad, because I did talk to him the next day, and yeah, I mean, he wishes that it would have gone a little bit better, but you know, he gets it as well.
Yes, yeah, he does.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely more of a platform for me to talk about the things that I've learned rather than a criticism of him. So
Yeah, I agree. And look, and I'm his. I do his programming, and I'm extremely proud of him.
yeah,
He put in his best effort because I watched the entire thing, and it was great to watch and see him try and talk about more. He's got 2 more years of being a junior, and his last year of being a junior, Worlds will be in Calgary, which is a three-hour drive from his home. So talk about building
yeah.
something over a period of years. It's going to be great to watch.
Hometown competition for that one.
Exactly, exactly.
Um, After Jason, let's see, that would have been on Friday. We had two lifters. We had Liz Craven at 52 kilos and Jess Benedetto at 57, and they both did really well also. So for Liz, um, I don't know. It was gonna be interesting to see where the 52 kilo class shaked out. Just because it's such a tight class. There's so much competition in that class. So it was just going to be a matter of let's lift weights and see how things end up. You know, her squat went better than it has in the past. She got a little out of position on the second attempt, but I don't think it hurt very much on the total. Maybe 2.5, maybe 5 kilos on the total. But yeah, overall the squat went well. Um, like I said, she's getting better and more consistent about that position thing. Peaked her bench very nicely, and then went for some big lifts, some big records. Took a big jump on in the deadlift. Missed one, but I mean that happens on the world stage. But anyway, long story short, she ended up setting a couple world records and won the bronze medal. So she ended up on the podium that day, and we were really proud of her. And the goal for Jess coming into this was like it would be nice to get her on the podium. We hope that that's a thing that works out. Um, did well in the squat. Actually went 2 for 3 in the squat. Went 2 for 3 in the bench. So maybe just a little bit. I think on the squat we could have peaked it a little bit better. And she and I talked afterwards about some ways that we're going to fix that for next time. But on the bench, I think it was just a matter of going for a big attempt. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. And her deadlift was bang on. There was a key bomb out in her weight class too, which helped. That put her on the podium. So we were really happy with the bronze medal finish for Jess. And I mean she's another one that's like this is definitely a multi-year thing for her. You know, um, she's got a lot of talent, and if we give her time to develop, I mean she's developed a lot already. Continue giving her time to develop. It's gonna be fun to see where that placement shakes out in another year or two.
Yeah, overall, watching this stuff and watching the development over years is what, in my opinion, one of the many things that makes powerlifting fun to watch. And the more that you watch these lifters and the more that you kind of just watch them develop over a period of time, it just makes every major event like this even more exciting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And kind of speaking of exciting, our two guys in the 105 class, Steve Emanuel and Bryce Krawcheck. Um, we knew that was going to be a really tight class, to begin with. And I think I know that there was a lot of speculation on it, right? Somebody at the meet came up to me beforehand and was asking me a lot of questions about Steven's peaking. Well, how's he doing here? How's his peaking been going and stuff? And they're like, I have money on this. And I kind of laughed a little bit, and they're like, no, literally, I have money on this. And I don't know. It's interesting to me. Like it was a really tight field. There were a lot of people um, who could have won that meet, but I thought it was cool, like in a lot of ways, cool how I didn't hear a lot of chatter before the meet about Bryce, you know, um, and he ended up in the silver medal position and could have been a challenge to a gold medal position. Now it turned out that Eli Burks was pretty far ahead at that point, and I think he would have just lowered his third attempt a little bit and still got it, But he could have pushed him a little bit, maybe give Eli a little bit of a scare. Um, Now, with that said, I think he made the smart play on his third deadlift and took what was there, secured that silver medal position. I think that was smart, but um, I just thought it was interesting how there wasn't as much chatter about Bryce. I mean, there was chatter about his deadlift, but not quite as much about the total. But he was right there in the running, at the end. So I was really proud of him for that. And yeah, he's a real hard-working guy, like a lot of our lifters are. Anybody at this level, really. But Bryce in particular, he's a hard-working guy. He responds well to training, and it's going to be fun to see where he goes from here. It's worth mentioning too, he's been doing sumo for like 6 or 8 weeks. It's not a thing that we've been practicing for a really long time. And he was definitely in position to take a crack at a world record deadlift, which I hope we get a chance to do that soon, so he can get his world record deadlift back.
Well, the other thing about Bryce is cool is he's been battling a lot of hip pain, and so to see him be able to hit, really, he went 9 for 9, right? So I'm pretty sure, yeah, he went 9 for 9 in
Yeah,
every squat attempt. I mean, he was able to stay relatively pain free from what it looked like, and like you always talk about, injuries going to be the biggest factor in your long term progress, and for him to be able to fix himself before ahead of time so he could go in strong to Worlds. I mean, that obviously helped him a lot. So it's really, really awesome to see him stay healthy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely cool. He, Canadian Nationals wasn't that long ago,
No.
and it would be perfect if you could just go right from Canadian Nationals and start this long, slow build up to Worlds. But for him, like you mentioned, he had some pain. We had to get him into more of a rehabby, repatterning type of program. That took a solid 2 months. You know, that's some valuable time when you're trying to peak for Worlds. But he still put it together and was still in shape. Um, yeah, man, I'm really proud of how he did. Um, Steven had a disappointing deadlift, but wow, I mean, what a squat, and his bench is really amazing too. We have some things that we're gonna do to fix that grip issue in the deadlift. I know between me and Mark and the rest of you guys, we're gonna get this problem solved and get him up there as well in the next year. I know. I mean, he's such a motivated guy. Like, that's what he wants. He knows, he's very clear about where he wants to end up, and he's willing to put in the work to get there. So, yeah, obviously we'll be seeing more from him. He's been kind of making a splash at this level, since Russia that I know of, and probably, well, I know before then, you don't just show up at that level, but, yeah, fun lifter to watch. Steven's really fun to watch, but.
Yeah, I guess I ran into him on, what was it, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, and he was asking me about the hook grip and everything, so I think he already, going into the meet, he knew he was having issues with that.
Yeah, we knew that it's been problematic, so between, we'll mess around with the hook, see if that's a thing that he can do well. We'll also mess around with some just grip training. I mean, nothing beats getting stronger. It makes a lot of things easier when it comes to powerlifting. So yeah, so the total count, I guess, total medal count would be that. We had Jason and Bryce both with silver medals, and Jess and Liz both with bronze medals at the end of this, and everybody lifted well. Everybody peaked well. There's always, you're never satisfied. There's always a couple things that you wish went a little bit better, or something like that. And I'm sure all these lifters would be, the same as any of us. But I can't think of a reason that they should be displeased with their performances. I know I'm really pleased with them.
Yeah, I would echo that. I would, for sure. And there's a lot more to come, and that's the exciting thing too. It's just for us here. I mean, we're already starting to think about getting everybody ready for Raw Nationals, because it's 13, 14 weeks away or so.
Yeah, 13.
Something like that, and so there's not a lot of rest for our American lifters. I know that I've got mine on a little bit of restoration right now, and then just throw them right back into it and have them get back on the team. That's the goal.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so there's Raw Nationals coming up. Paulie, I know that you're headed to Belarus to coach the university team.
Yeah, I'll be an assistant coach for the very first University Cup, and I'll do some reconnaissance, since Worlds will be in Belarus next year. I have to be careful about saying reconnaissance. I'll check the place out.
Right. We're talking about finding the good pizza places and stuff like that, right?
In Belarus, yeah, exactly. I'll report back.
All right, fantastic. Well, that's about it in terms of time. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about, but I wanted to make sure that at least we got to mention that, and we got to kind of debrief the whole World's experience and clean a little bit. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Good chatting with you. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Reactive Training Systems.